Spotify support told me to read their refund policy. So I did and forced them to give me a refund. So my Spotify premium renewed today because I forgot to cancel. I immediately checked their refund policy online and confirmed I was eligible, so I cancelled the plan literally within minutes and hopped on support chat to ask for the refund. Seems simple, right? The agent, Christina, gave me the classic runaround. She said the 14-day refund period only applies to your initial sign-up, and since I've been a member for months, I was out of luck. She even sent me a link to the policy to prove her point, telling me to read it. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. I did exactly what she said. I read the policy, and then I went deeper and found their full, legally binding terms of use. And what did I find? In Section 3, under Withdrawal Right, it clearly states you have 14 days after your purchase to withdraw for any reason. A monthly renewal is a new purchase. My own research before the chat was correct. I went back to Christina and quoted the terms of use directly. She put me on hold to check backstage, then came back with the same denial. Her team was doubling down on the incorrect script. So I played my final card. I sent this message. Since this dispute is specifically about the legal interpretation of the withdrawal right in your terms of use, could you please provide the contact information for Spotify's legal department or the appropriate office for handling formal contractual disputes? The change was instant. Suddenly, she had to see what she could do. 5 minutes later, I've managed to ask some support with our backstage team, and we can go ahead and process a refund for you. They folded like a cheap suit. Their business model counts on you giving up. Don't. You are entitled to your money back. TLDR, Spotify support tried to deny my valid refund by misinterpreting their own policy. I read their legal terms of use as they suggested, cited it back to them, and when they still refused, I asked for their legal team's contact info. They immediately processed the refund. Don't let them push you around. Supervisor told me sarcastically to call the fire department. I did. Worked in retail in between jobs way back when, early 90s. Yeah, I'm old, get off my lawn. It was December, major department store that is no longer around. I know that doesn't narrow it down, sorry. Anyways, they tried to cram as much product on the floor as possible, to the point that you couldn't walk through the aisles and had to twist and turn to get past the fixtures set up with product. I casually mentioned to a supervisor that if the fire department ever came in, they would close us down for the hazards and lack of egress. She was highly stressed and blurted out to me, "You know what? Then call the fire department." I held my hands up and said easy. She assigned me my duties and that was that. Well, she did tell me to call. On the way home, I stopped by a government building that had all sorts of agencies in it. Told the receptionist my plate and she pointed to a phone on a wall. Tell the operator I want the FD and they would patch me through to the station's non-emergency line. The fire chief himself answered. I told him how crowded it was and what the supervisor said. He had a good laugh and said they'd check it out. I was off the next day but heard about it when I got back. Fire chief and a station house full of firefighters show up to do an inspection. He tells the store manager that egress is being blocked and he'd have to remove a lot of the fixtures in the aisles. The store manager says he has orders from corporate fixtures stay. Fire chief assures him he will win the argument. Store manager stands his ground. Fire chief, "Alright boys, close them down." They evacuated the store all 3 levels and closed all entrances in December, prime Christmas shopping season. Although it wasn't a weekend day, it was during the week, but still. Store manager tried to protest and suddenly the sheriff's department started showing up. Long story short, they were closed for 1/2 hours while the chief, store manager, and employees rearranged the store to acceptable levels. The supervisor never treated me differently, so I'm guessing she didn't remember the conversation. The store manager, surprisingly, did not get fired by corporate, but corporate was not happy. About a week later, I'm working with the store manager and supervisor when she asks why we can't do something a certain way. The store manager replied the fire department won't allow that, and that was it. I worked there a few more weeks before getting a job that almost got me killed in a workplace shooting. But that's a story for later. Edit 1. There are some videos on YouTube about postal shootings, one done by a woman which is insane. Even the comments. The one I was in, the person was acting out for well over a year. Skeptic magazine had the great issue about mass shootings. I think from 2013, one study they talked about was how the mass shooters never snap, but act out for usually a year or longer before committing the act. Interesting stuff. Myself, as well as other employees, expressed concern to management about the behavior and potential for violence, but they said that employee was harmless. Didn't surprise a lot of us who it was when it happened. I could go on, but honestly, most of you would think I'm lying, but I could corroborate every story. And the funny part is, other postal workers would snicker and say there's nothing. Let me tell you what happened at our facility. It is the most violent workplace in America, and also the most deadly. You want the server down during business hours? You got it. I used to work IT at a mid-sized logistics company. Our warehouse ran 24/7, but the corporate office was open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I was responsible for maintaining the internal server that handled everything from payroll to inventory management to shipping labels. One Monday morning, I got an email from a higher-up, let us call her Karen, demanding that we take the server offline immediately for scheduled maintenance. Now, I had scheduled that maintenance for Sunday evening, sent out 3 notices, and got no objections. But Karen hadn't read those emails and was now insisting we do it right now during her working hours. I replied, taking the server offline during business hours will temporarily halt access to the shipping system, inventory, time tracking, and payroll processing. Confirm you'd like me to proceed. She replied, and I quote, yes. You should be working on my schedule. Get it done now. All right. Malicious compliance time. I looped in the warehouse manager and let him know the system would be down per Karen's urgent request. Then I pulled the plug at exactly 10:30 a.m. Within 15 minutes, the office was in chaos. No one could clock in or out, print labels, track shipments, or even check inventory levels. Phones were ringing off the hook. The CFO stormed into my office asking what the hell was going on. I just showed him the email thread. Less than 30 minutes later, Karen came to my office red-faced and yelling. I calmly pointed out that she had approved the server downtime in writing despite warnings. I offered to restore access early, but reminded her it would take time to reboot and check for errors from the forced shutdown. Fallout? Oh yes. She got dragged into a meeting with the COO and CTO that afternoon. From what I heard, it didn't go well for her. After that, all urgent IT requests from management had to go through a change management process with multiple approvals. I also got a little bonus on my next paycheck for handling the outage with professionalism. Sometimes, the best way to teach someone why we have procedures is to let them break one. Once. Do all the work yourself or get 0% by user Where's Mitchin. In high school, I was in a science class that I did very well in. I was top of the class and scored nearly 100% on every test and assignment. The teacher assigned a big group project that would take about a week to complete with a team of 4 students. Groups were randomly assigned, and unfortunately, I was paired up with 3 kids who were barely passing the class. In class, we are given time to make plans together as a group to divide up work, examine the instructions, schedule times outside of school to meet up, etc. It was at this point my teammates decided to tell me that they weren't going to do any work on the project. I asked why, and they said they knew I really cared about my grade, so they figured I would do it on my own. They were so lazy, they were banking on the fact I wouldn't tant my own grade, so they could benefit off of my hard work when I inevitably got a good score on the project. I was pissed and said that was unfair. They dug in and said it too bad. Now you either do this project yourself or you get a 0%. Malicious compliance. Now, I could have gone to the teacher and he probably would have sorted this out, but a better idea struck me. So I said, fine, I'll do what you say. They smiled smugly and thought that was that. But you see, this teacher had a policy that at the end of the semester your lowest grade, excluding finals, would be taken off your record. So, if you forgot to turn in an assignment or did really bad on one test, you got a mulligan so it wouldn't ruin your final grade. I had never done poorly on an assignment all year, so I never needed my mulligan. However, I knew that these shitheads all did. If they got a big fat 0 on a crucial assignment, they would probably fail the class. So I did exactly as they instructed. I did no work on the project all week. Just sat on it and bided my time. At the beginning of the next week, all the students turned in their assignments. My team watched as I sat in my chair unmoving. Finally, one said, "Classmate, hey up, aren't you going to turn in the project?" Me, oh, I didn't do the project. They were shocked and asked why the hell I didn't do it. Me, he said, do all the work or get a 0%. I'd choose 0%. They were all royally pissed. They all had to do credit recovery over the summer. I hated my guts, but I couldn't have cared less. It was the most satisfying failing grade in my entire life. Supervisor said, "Don't just type BRB," so I told the whole team I had to poop. So this recently happened in my call center type job. My brand new supervisor, promoted for all the wrong reasons, wasn't exactly qualified. I could write a whole post on that, but the gist is she only got promoted because she was friends with the boss and is always giving him advice on the women he dates. Anyway, we had a Teams chat where we kept each other updated and asked for help with things. Normal procedure was simple. If you stepped away, we would typically just type BRB so everyone knew you weren't available for calls. Did this for years with no issues. Well, new supervisor decides that it's not good enough. She needs to assert control and dominance. She announced to us in one-on-one combos that we all had to start getting specific reasons for why we were stepping away. I told her I wasn't really comfortable announcing to the entire team every time I had to use the bathroom. She basically shrugged and said, "It is the rule. We need transparency so I know what everyone is doing." Okay. We've had no issues for years, but whatever she says goes, I guess. The very next time nature called, instead of a boring BRB, I typed BRB, going to go poop in the bathroom. Immediately she PM'd me in Teams saying that was not professional. I reminded her she told us to be specific, and I was just following directions. After that, others started joining in. Some favorites were. Within a week, the supervisor started telling us we didn't need to be so specific when stepping away from our desks. Like, yeah, we know.